Hey guys, so here we are again, and we wanted to tell some stories. We found some old journals when we were going through boxes the other day, some of Mama's old journals, and that had some pretty entertaining stories about you guys when you were young. So I thought if Mammy would tell some of those.
It started out when Dad and I were dating, and I think one of the earliest stories was when Dave was really little, and when he was a baby, whenever I would nurse him, he would take my hair and he would just play with it the whole time I was nursing him. And so when I was done nursing him, whenever he would suck his thumb or have a bottle, he always wanted to have hair in his hand. And he would call a hair a me. And I don't know why.
Maybe give me one or something.
Yeah, I don't know why he would call a hair a me, but that's what he called it. So every time he was tired, he would come up to me and he'd ask for a me. So I would just do like this with my hair, and there's usually a loose hair. There's one right there. And I would give it to him, and he would just twirl it around his fingers like this, and then put his thumb in his mouth and just play like that. So the funny story was we were living in an apartment. It was when I was a single mom, and he went and he looked under the kitchen sink, and there were a whole lot of cobwebs under there, and he thought he had found a jackpot. He opened the door and he saw those, and he said, "Me!" And he was just so happy that he had all these hairs, and he grabbed the handful of cobwebs and put his thumb in his mouth before I could stop him. So that was one of the funny stories about Dave. And back before Jessica was Jessica, back when she was Melanie, she was really cute. I had written in my journal that I had been up all half the night because I hadn't gotten to bed till after midnight. And then after I'd finally gotten to sleep, she got up in the middle of the night, and I guess she was about 3 years old, and she wanted to come climb in my bed, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "There's a crab in my bed." I didn't even know that she knew what a crab was, but she was sure there was a crab in her bed, and I said, "No, there's not a crab in your bed. You go on back to bed now." And she's like, "No, there's a crab in my bed." And I was like, "Okay, fine." So I put her in my bed and tried to go back to sleep, and I couldn't because she was tossing and turning the whole night. So I was just a super exhausted single mom, and that was one of the really bad nights, but it was hilarious at the same time because she'd come to me telling me that there was a crab in her bed.
They were always entertaining.
Yes. Do you want me to tell them about the one about the
the garden?
The garden?
Yes, that was a good one about Dave.
Okay, so Dave was 3, and we had moved into this. It was after we got married, and we lived in this house that had an above ground pool, one of those round ones. Only they had tried to sink it down into the ground, and then they had put like a 2 brick layer around it, sort of as an edge. And some of the bricks were loose, and so Dave had taken a couple of the bricks and was playing with them, and I said, "Davey, you put those bricks back now." And so he put the bricks back. Well, the next day I was out in the garden working, and Dave was out there with me, and he said, "You know why I put those bricks back, right?" And I was like, "Why?" And, thinking, well, because I told you to. And I wanted to hear what he had to say, why it was that he had put those bricks back. And he said, "Well, so the garden wouldn't get out."
Good boy.
So that was another cute thing that one of the kids said.
Oh, another one about the garden was with James when we put him out there.
Oh, I'd have to read that one directly from the journal because I don't remember how that went, but that was...
Well, it was something like this. Apparently I put you out there, put James out there, and to play, and put the other kids out there, and they just close the door and let them run around out there. And he came back with his mouth covered with chicken poop or something like that.
No, what it was the dad. This happened every time if I asked your dad to watch the kids for me. It was really always some little...
She always hoped for better.
Some little disaster would happen. So the kids were outside playing in the backyard, and it was fine for Jessica and Dave to be out there because they were older. But James was new, and he was like maybe
one,
maybe,
maybe
toddling around. And Dad had let the chickens out too, and then the next thing I knew, I saw James, and he had like brown all around his mouth, and I didn't know what it was. And
Could have been dirt. We hope it was dirt.
In my journal, I was like, I just hoped it wasn't chicken poop. Anyway, it was like we got to that part in the journal and just cracked up laughing because we didn't remember that.
She said, "How did they survive as long as they did?"
Yeah, it's like, how did kids ever survive?
Yeah. Well, they didn't have to worry about their immunities too much, I guess.
No. So anyway, those were some of the funny stories that we found in my old journals from like 1980 to 82, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was that one part where it says, "Today I drove off a mountain cliff." That was that story. That was January the 12th.
Well, that was fun. I mean, we were driving back from California on our way after visiting California, back to Newport News. We were driving through the mountains of West Virginia, and we're going along this curvy road. Well, you know, Mama's kind of vertically challenged. Vertically challenged. Even in the Volkswagen, she couldn't see over the steering wheel. And so we're driving on this curvy road, and the road went right, but she didn't see that it went right. She kept going straight, and we drove off onto this cut down to a parking lot. It went down about 15, 20 feet. We went bumping down, and fortunately we didn't roll over because we kind of turned to the side, and we finally made it to the bottom. And I remember Davey bumped his head on the ceiling of the car, ended up bending 3 rims and one of the axles on the back, and it was a mess. So we drove back to Newport News like that. It was several hundred miles with the wheel wobbling, tried to get it fixed, but no luck. But anyway, that was an adventure on this snowy little road in backwoods, West Virginia.
Yeah, we were just lucky we survived because
Could end up in the river.
Yeah, the whole time driving up this mountain, you'd look over the side of the road and it was just this cliff. And so when I drove off the cliff, I just thought, oh, that's it. This is it. This is the end. And it was the weirdest thing because rather than there being more cliff, it was just like this area where there was a parking lot with a little store. So we didn't die.
But we always tell Mama about driving off a cliff on our way back. And now her favorite expression to me is, the road is that way, when I'm not looking at the road.
Well, actually, that came from a movie. That was a...
Oh, is that what it came from?
That was a quote from a movie where somebody was in a cab and the cab driver was turned around talking to him, and he's like, the road is that way. But Dad's always driving without looking at the road. He's always looking over his shoulder like the cab driver did, so I always it's that way. But that was where that came from. That didn't come from...
Oh, it didn't come from that?
Mm-mm.
Well, it applied.
No.
Oh. Anyway, those are some stories. More next week. See ya.